Hello everyone and welcome to a timely video about trimming high cost basis shares. I mentioned in the previous video that I would try to make something more actionable to show a trade that happens within 24 hours. In this case, this was a trade that was made this morning for American Tower. So trade date was 5/16/2024, and it was 10 shares at $194.75. Originally, that was a limit trade for 195. We felt like we were close enough on this one, so we decided to take the win a little bit early and reduce the high cost shares a little bit more. So in this video, just know I'm not feeling the best right now, but I really wanted to make sure I kept my word or tried to follow through on this. But basically, I just want to reiterate that I'm not a financial advisor and I don't claim to be one. I'm making these videos for the people who were interested in my strategy and the thought process behind this. And I also want to emphasize that this is not a day trading, short-term type of mentality. This needs to only be done on companies that you feel like you understand very well, that you feel like have somewhat predictable patterns, and that you're willing to play the long game mindset. And you'll see that with the dates that are associated with a lot of the trades here, because the trades for this company go back nearly 4 years. If I remember, I think about 3.5 years. So anyway, it's not something that just happened overnight. So first thing I want to start with is just looking at what the current yield is. I marked here with this red line approximately what that looks like. And so you can see that the yield is currently offering something that hasn't been very common over the last 10 years. This isn't uncommon for the real estate investment trust sector, but just a good pointer to be able to start with, to look at where the historical yields have been. And just remember that historical yields, in this case, if the yield is low, then it means that the stock price is high. But if the yield is high, then it means that the stock price is running historically low. It's just kind of the inverse relationship that I pay attention to there. So on here, I just wanted to start with, this is not all of the trades that lead up to this. I just wanted to highlight what happened in 2024. We'll show you some of the older ones as well, but in this case, you can imagine that the list is too long here because we trade in very small shares when we do this, usually between 5 to 10 shares on average, I would say. But recently you can see here that it's been a number of trades that have taken place. I mean, even just since April, there's been, 4 buys and 1 sell. So it's something that has had a lot of volatility lately. And part of that has been that the stock price has pushed lows. And again, that goes back to the dividend yield, of looking where that dividend yield is high and buying when it's high, and then turning around and selling some shares when they're low. But on here, you can see that even in these recent sells here, we've sold as high as $208 a share. And in this case, our most recent sale, which was just under 195, but we've been adding in the 180 and even in the low 170 range, which has been beneficial for the cost basis on this position. So when we look at the realized gains off this, and again, this is going back, Charles Schwab only lets you go back 2 years, and just know that so this is, a little bit more than 2 years, goes back to the beginning of 2022. So in this case, this is all of the trades that have been made since 2022 in terms of the sells. And what I wanted to highlight here is to look at the cost basis of the shares that were sold. This is the closing price, but here's our cost basis of the shares that were sold. And so you'll notice here that even when these shares were sold at $200 a share, we took a slight loss on there. So basically, we're looking at shares that were over $200 a share in terms of their cost basis. But we even get up into the $256 range where we're still taking a loss here. So this is back kind of in the heyday of American Tower, kind of right before interest rates, started to move higher. Just a lot of different factors came into play at this point in time, but I just wanted to highlight and show you how high some of these shares were, when they were sold, and the fact that right now, even if you take all the trades that have been done, even with today's, it's still sitting at a very slight loss. So we've had some wins, we've had some losses, but really the wins were more so just to continue reducing the exposure of that position. And I'll show you why that matters here in just a minute. So here we have this is the current cost basis of the position. I don't know if this is exactly the slide where I wanted it, but yeah, let me jump to this next one. So I'll cover that previous one here in just a second, but on here, what I wanted to show is that if you look at just the initial trades with AMT going back to the beginning of 2021, the first 50 buys that were done totaled $10,987.72 for a whopping $219.75 per share cost basis. But when you look at the cost basis today, and this is that one that I told you was in the wrong spot, so I kind of skipped over it. But if you look at the cost basis today, for the total 80 shares that are remaining in this portfolio at $14,699.17 as the cost basis on it, 80 shares here, that puts us at $183.74. So that's darn near about, I think it works out to be about a $36 swing in the average cost basis of American Tower. And again, you'll notice that in the realized gains, there hasn't been a huge benefit to having sold those shares. It wasn't like we were doing it to make a bunch of gains on the portfolio, but we've been able to reduce the cost basis significantly, and right now the position is sitting at, if we were to liquidate the whole thing, we'd be sitting at just under $900 for the gain on it. And meanwhile, we've been collecting the dividend income in the process. So anyway, that's just kind of a look at a more recent trade here. And so let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments, thoughts, whatever it may be. So again, not feeling so hot tonight. So I'm going to wrap this one up, and I will, I'll make another video as soon as I can. Thanks, everyone.